Welcome to Making It, a podcast where dreamers are catching their dreams. This is your host, James DeMarco. Sit back and get inspired to make it happen. Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Making It. I am thrilled to have my former coach and counselor, transformational therapist, Geoff Farnsworth, here with me today. And we are going to give you some tips that help me and that also he uses with many of his clients in their life transitions. Welcome, Geoff.
Yeah, thanks. Welcome to be here.
Thank you. So Geoff has been with me on this journey. I haven't talked to him in a few years, but I started with Geoff back in 2005, which seems so long ago. And we stayed the course until I started to work more rigorously in New York, probably 2007 and 2008. And then Geoff came to my Emmy party that I had when I got my first Emmy, because he was instrumental in helping me to hone in on what my goals were and how to navigate those. And then we picked up again throughout that time when I was having relationship issues. And back in 2019, I left my relationship and went back to Geoff, and we focused on my recovery out of the relationship and how to focus on the life I wanted to lead from that point forward, because I was in a 24-year relationship, which many people have these life transitional issues. Geoff, in your practice, tell me a little bit about how long you've been doing this work and what you bring to all of the clients you've had over the years as far as the help that you can offer them.
What brought me to the work primarily was my own healing. I guess my own healing, my own discovering that I was living a life that was unfulfilling, that I was feeling stuck in, that I was not happy with, and started to just do the work to uncover what do I want to do? What is important to me? What is it that I'm being called to do? And so that through that process, I discovered I really want to work with people who want to really free themselves from their childhood conditioning and from the limiting beliefs they may have, and so that they can really live the life fully in their lives. And so, sometimes it's really helping people realize what's possible for them, and maybe even what's impossible.
Okay.
In a way.
Right.
But yeah.
So would you say that people's greatest fear is success in overcoming some of these blocks that they've developed? Do you think they have that fear and that stays with them over time from childhood?
Absolutely. There's definitely fears that we carry from our childhood or from other, outside external things that may have happened to us in our life. And we formulate beliefs about ourselves and others and the world. And those beliefs become more of the way the glasses that we're looking out of.
Okay.
So they tend to be very limiting. They can be very limiting to us and keep us stuck.
Yes, they keep us stuck.
Exactly. So one of the ways I look at that is not so much, there's a lot of work, different things out there about changing your belief, changing your thinking and that sort of thing. But what might be a little bit unique in the way I do it is really going back and really helping people to identify what is really true for them. And that is more of an internal going into the heart, going into and just doing some mindful inquiry work to say, what is true? Is that belief true? Can you absolutely say it's true? And then we do some exploration about that. And, who would you be without that belief? And one of the things that's important for people to work with in this way is we're not, the part of you that has that belief, it isn't something you're trying to get rid of or judge that either. It's only, you really look at that part of you that has that belief is usually trying to protect you in some way. And that goes back to the fear.
Okay.
It has some fear and is trying to protect you. So when we separate it out a little bit and look at it, we discover what that fear is, what it's afraid would happen, and if it were to go forward, and help. Basically, it's really we update the files, so to speak, of that fear and recognize, that might have been true when you were a child. Is it true now? And what would be truer now? So it's really respecting the part of you that might have been blocking you, but also it's really giving it a new job description.
So it's not almost, you're not forgetting about that part of you. You're acknowledging yourself and that fear and whatever trauma happened, but you're also then saying it no longer serves me, or is it really valid?
Yeah, that's exactly. And you bring it into a way that that it's truer. I mean, there might be some germ of truth in it, but it's not usually like, I mean, a classic example. Some people might have a belief that I'm not good enough.
Right.
Right. Well, good enough for what? It's so global, but we live as if that's that out of that. But maybe there may be a germ of truth in it, and so we look at what is truer. What's the truest you can get with that belief? And really, like I say, the part of you that has the belief, we really reassign it.
And when you reassign it, though, it's coming from all different areas of your life. When you were working with me, I had um, conditioning from childhood about um, my future, about work, about making money, and being a provider. And I kind of sort of went the opposite way because it was kind of like rebellion. So, um, would you say that most people then have a number of these beliefs in different facets of their life? If it's a relationship, if it's work, if it's money, and they have to find a common ground with all of them? Or do you feel that most people have just one big one that they need to overcome?
Usually, I would say it this way: that there's probably an assortment of them, and in different areas of your life and so forth. But if you boil them down a little bit, if you go in deeper with them, they tend to come up with, maybe less, 3 or 4 or 5, maybe core beliefs, what I call core beliefs. They're at the very core of everything, and then there's sub beliefs from them. You
Yes.
know, so that's what we look at. We look, what are those core beliefs? What are those core limiting beliefs? And basically, work through them to
And that's
update.
what you had me do all those years ago. And it was hard work because I really had to think.
Yeah,
Um, about my core beliefs were about different aspects of what I valued and what my values were. I don't think the general population spends their days thinking about those things. You taught me to be mindful and conscious, which I kind of live my life now in the moment. I don't tend to think ahead, but you do need to plan some things. So, as far as the mindfulness, um, as it relates to moving forward for someone, are there any tips or tools when they're writing down what their beliefs and values are? That's an easy way for the average person who is in a rut.
yeah. Well, one tool that I use a lot is basically the journaling process. So if you're so even you could have that as a daily practice, really, just to go. Sometimes people refer to it from the morning pages kind of approach, but basically you can. The way I like to work with the journal is especially when we're talking about beliefs and things that are keeping you stuck, is to look at it like a dialogue, or like you would have the part of you that wants to achieve some goal, and then there's the part of you that doesn't let you do it or hold you back. So you would separate them out and have a dialogue with them. So it would almost look like a screenplay. Like you would have this dialogue with, and you reckon, and through that process, we're uncovering. You'll uncover what's really true, and what is it about that block or belief that is no longer valid, or maybe it needs something that you have access, some resource you already have to
Yes.
bring to bear on it. So it starts to free those really it's a liberation of those kind of things that hold you back and limit you.
I
So
think jotting
journaling is one of them,
journaling's one of them.
one tool.
That's a great one. I remember journaling. I still journal. I like your idea though of writing a dialogue like a screenplay. Of course, I identified with that.
Yeah,
That's genius.
yeah. And it really works. I'll tell you, I kid around about it, but sometimes I tell people, look, the cheapest therapist I know is a notebook. Because you can do a lot with that. And dialoguing is a really effective way to do that.
So I would literally write down my response to each. Let's just say I was working on a trigger for listeners out there. If you're working on a trigger, something that triggers you or you're unhappy with in your life at work, then I would write a dialogue next to it, like my response to that, what it is now and what it can be.
Yeah. And what is it? What is you also want to dialogue with the fact that the part of you that's triggered. Like, what is it afraid of? What is it needing so that it to release, or what is it needing from you to heal, or whatever the case might be? So you're looking for the opening, the daylight, in a
The
way.
daylight, right,
Yeah.
right. And this is digging deep, listeners out there. This is really meat and potatoes of what you need to do to transform, and it takes time, right?
Sure, it does. Sure, at time. It's like it's not a straight line either.
Yeah, I
You know,
think when I first started seeing you, it was probably like 2.5 years before I really started living in the values that I wanted and the truth that I wanted. Now, for me, my career always had been my focus because I'm creative and I think a little differently and I knew what I wanted as far as that went. And I already had a relationship, but it wasn't perfect, but I could live with it, and work on that. But the career I really wanted. So once the career came, it was easier for all those other pieces to fall back in place. I was happier. But don't you agree that it's more important though to live in that joy and happiness in the process and not have to wait for that break or that new relationship to come?
absolutely. You couldn't have said it better.
And that's
Yeah,
where consciousness and mindfulness come into play as far as what's important in your daily life.
yeah. Yeah, there's a quote that I liked it from Thich Nhat Hanh. His quote is, there is no way to happiness. Happiness,
Yes,
happiness is the way.
happiness is the way, and it's the journey. Life is the journey.
Absolutely.
It's not the destination.
Yes, it's not.
I
And
think we're all taught that it's the destination. This is the
yeah,
end goal. Someone just said to me because I was looking into moving somewhere, and they said, "Well, what's your end goal?" I said, "My end goal. That sounds so finite. Like I'm infinite.
yeah,
Infinite possibilities. I can't think of in terms of what my end goal is. Otherwise, I may as well just retire." you know
right.
Something else that we were talking about was I had mentioned in my first podcast that um my journey that you helped me with. I was so obsessed with working in production and film that I ended up going into it the front door, and then the front door I had a big block at work. I was harassed. I'm not sure if I don't think you were my counselor then. And I ended up leaving that job at a network, being sexually harassed. And that prompted me to sue them, number one, and number two, to go into the back door. But I didn't realize it was a back door to film and television, and that was makeup. So me and you were recently speaking about how you like to uh, not condition, but you tell your clients that there is a back door, there is a side door. You don't
Yeah,
have to go in the front door.
yeah. Often the cases that's what one of the things I think sometimes holds people back. They look at where they want to go, and there's a door there, but they can't get in for whatever reason. Whatever, there's could be a varied reasons. So what I have people do is to more like a creative process. Look at what other possibilities are there? What other door is there? And an example I can give you. For example, I remember when I changed my career way back then in the old days. I was in marketing sales. You know, So I thought, well, I'm going to have to go, and I wanted to get into the counseling business, world, so I'll have to use my sales background. So I called up the marketing and sales people of different counseling centers. And I
Okay.
said, well, I'm looking to get into the field. I'm going to, because I figured maybe if I was in the marketing and sales, it might be easier to get into the counseling itself. But I had a conversation with someone that was in marketing. He said, you know what, there's a program that you can up here in, at that time was in Warner's, Pennsylvania, at the Karen Institute, that has an internship that you'll learn all the experiential methods of helping and counseling and healing. And I applied and I got in. I got into the internship, and that was the biggest change for me. I mean, that opened up all the doors for there. But it was that was a backdoor approach. I was going in the front door thinking, oh, I'm going to have to be in marketing and sales, and no, I don't. I can go into another door and find there. That's one example. I mean, I had a guy who was a musician, for example, and he was, as a musician, it's not an easy road to make a living at. And that's, he was starting a family and so forth. And he thought, I'm not going to ever make it. Sometimes you realize it isn't going to happen. So he thought, but we worked, and he realized that, that I really like making music. So he got trained as an audio engineer, learned that, worked at a studio, and ended up owning his own recording studio, and went on to live, his life enjoying making music.
That's amazing.
Yeah. There's always another way. That's the thing that we tend to forget. There's always another way. As long as we keep, the laser focus on what you want, the other doors will open.
Would you say that resistance will block it? If someone's determined to go through the front door?
Yes. Yeah, you'll bang your head against it. It's like right? But it's true.
Yeah, I banged my head many times. But you're right. I feel like even in education, we're taught to go through the front door.
Yes.
No one's telling you to go to the side door.
Yeah.
Or the back door.
Yeah. Well, that's very true. You can find out. Well, you have to have certain credentials. You have to go through a certain formal education to get into that front door. But that's not always true.
Right.
In fact, it isn't true. It's definitely not always true.
Yeah, it's not always true. It's just a belief system.
Yeah, and it is the way that maybe that system is set up that way, and that's the obvious way to go.
Obvious way.
We have to be more resilient in that way. We have to start looking more creatively about what is another way that I can get in. And some of the work I do with people is just kind of brainstorming those things. Like looking at all different possibilities of how they can get to where they want to go. It may not be the direct path.
Yes.
I
think that's probably the most important, is to find those other ways and prompt your clients to try to get creative with how they could pursue. Because I know so many people have given up on what they really want because they haven't made it through the front door. I almost was one of them.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big one. I mean, it's I just keep reminding people there's always a way. If you're and I would say this as sort of as a qualification on that. If you're aligned with your values, who you truly are, there's always a way.
I love that.
Yeah, if it comes because it's coming from your spirit. It's coming from your soul. It's coming from your essential self.
Yes.
You're here to live a magnificent life. So. So
I think you just summed up our whole talk. Listeners out there, it's all about alignment. It's alignment with your essential self, because that's from your soul and spirit, and that's going to lead you. Yes. And that's the most important.
Yes, absolutely. It is. It's essential.
It's essential. It's essential to all areas that you want to transform in your life.
Yeah. Yes.
So thanks, Geoff, for joining me. Thank you for all the help and support you gave me over the years. I can't thank you enough. And I know these listeners out there appreciate this, I'm going to say, legendary, iconic knowledge from your vast experience.
Well, thank you, Jim. And just as a plug for you, your journey is an inspiring, example of what we've been talking about, with your folks staying achieving what's possible through your own vision and your own values and your own alignment. So good on you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's all about alignment, everyone out there. Thank you again, Geoff. And where can they reach you, Geoff, if they would like a session?
Yeah, my email's the easiest way for me. It's Coach GF, that's my initials, at mac.com. CoachGF@mac.com. Or I do have a website that I've looked at for a while, but it's called heartwisdomcoach.com.
Okay, heartwisdomcoach.com. It's all about the heart and the heart alignment.
Yes,
Your
exactly.
essential self.
Yeah, you know the quote, right? I'll leave you with that quote from The Little Prince. And his big secret in The Little Prince is very simple. It is only with the heart that one can see rightly.
It is only with the heart
that one can see rightly.
Wow.
And what is essential is invisible to the eye or to the mind, really.
Powerful. Powerful. Yeah. Only with the heart. So let's all focus on the heart out there, the heart of what you want. Thanks, everyone, for joining me. Thank you, Geoff.
You bet. Good seeing you.
Thanks for joining me on this episode of Making It. I'm your host, James DeMarco. Keep dreaming, and I'll see you next time.